Tonight we gather for this solemnity of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary, body and soul into heaven. You might ask yourself, you might be thinking, why is this important? Why should we celebrate this? And what does this really mean for us right at this moment? Mary was without sin. She was conceived that way. That's the way God designed her, so that Mary would be a perfect place for God to come amongst us in the person of Jesus Christ. And because Mary was without sin, she didn't have the effects of sin upon her. And part of the effects of sin is sickness, is death. And we're seeing very much at this moment sickness and death. Today we celebrate the end of Mary's earthly life. But Mary's earthly life ended in a different way to the way everybody else's earthly life ends. Mary, we would say, didn't die. If we think of death as the culmination of sickness, of suffering, and of the decay of a body, that doesn't happen with Mary. For Mary, her earthly life comes to an end, and her body and soul are united and taken to heaven, assumed into heaven, which is an incredible thing. This is what we're yearning for, all of us, for heaven. But I think what the story of Mary indicates for us, and especially indicates for us at this time, is that it calls us to consider the importance of the physical, of our bodies. Because Mary's body and her soul are taken to heaven. We aren't just called to be people of the spirit, we're also people of the flesh. And very often our flesh and the impact of things that are fleshly can impact our spirit as well. This is what we've seen over the last 18 months. A physical crisis that's led to psychological, financial, and spiritual crisis. What's it all mean? Mary was without sin. But Mary, right throughout her life, said yes. She said yes at the Annunciation, and God came to dwell within her. She said yes over and over again to bring Jesus, to literally carry Jesus inside her to Elizabeth, so that Elizabeth could say yes to Jesus as well, physically and spiritually. And we're called to say yes to Jesus, both physically and spiritually. Often we don't think of Mary in receiving the sacraments, but we know that Mary lived on earth with John the Apostle for about 50 years or so after Jesus ascended into heaven. Mary had quite a life, you could say, that she lived. And Mary participated in the life of the church. Even though Mary was without sin, she still came and received the graces of the sacraments. She would have received Holy Communion, like we do. She may have received some of the other sacraments as well. Why do we think about this? Mary brought things into her, even though she continued to say yes spiritually, she was saying yes physically too. Earlier this week, our Archbishop has written a pastoral letter to our people. And a link to it's in our bulletin. I encourage you to download it and have a look. The pastoral letter is about the vaccine that the world is encouraging us to receive at this time. In our own parish here of Cronulla, thank you to those who have received the vaccines already, their first or second jabs. We know in our area there has been quite a high take-up rate of the vaccine, which is fantastic. The Archbishop writes in his pastoral letter about the moral crisis that many have gone through in relation to the vaccines, that they weren't necessarily designed from a moral or an ethical point of view. at least in a bioethical point of view. There are some problems with them. They don't work necessarily 100% of the time. But the Pope, the magisterium, the bishops, and even our own bishop has said this is a good thing for us to participate in, even though it's not 100% perfect. It's good to take the vaccine to help ourselves, but to help others as well. It's good to say yes. It's a hard thing. Many people are finding it very difficult to want to take the vaccine. I encourage you, if you're feeling like that or you're annoyed that I'm speaking about this tonight, I encourage you to download and to read the Archbishop's pastoral letter. He understands, and I understand, the struggles people are going through. But this is a good thing. It's not perfect. It's not like something we receive with the sacraments. It's not God. But it's something that will help. And if it's going to help, we can say yes. So I encourage you, have a look at it, think about it. So Mary said yes. She said yes to God, but she said yes to broken individuals in the church as well. To Peter, to James, to John. She supported them even in their brokenness. She didn't chastise them, she lifted them up. And then Mary, at the end of her earthly life, is taken body and soul, reminding us of the importance both of the physical and the spiritual. They need to go hand in hand. And so a spiritual decision should have physical implications. And physical implications have spiritual implications. They go hand in hand. Our sacraments are physical things that we say yes to, but they impact us spiritually as well. So I encourage you at this time, during this lockdown now, to continue to say yes, to be thankful that Mary said yes to God. And she said yes over and over again. Let's say yes today. Love of God, yes to the graces of the sacraments, and yes to doing what we can to bring goodness, to bring health, and to help people on that journey to last for the next short period of time, but also to last for eternity. We are made for now, and we're made for eternity. Let's do what we can to live for both at this time. Let us be inspired by Mary, who assumes into heaven, whose solemnity we celebrate today. Blessings.